Okay, so the focus of this third assignment is on the planning phase of the of projects, right? And you know, in Waterfall, you would have one huge single planning phase where we would not start building anything until we're all set, you know, and decided how is it that we plan this from the start. In Agile, instead, we're going to have planning, you know, all breaking up into much smaller pieces, where every week. Every sprint, every week, or every 2 weeks, depending on the length of the sprint, we're going to be choosing a 1-week sprint. At the beginning, there would be a sprint planning meeting where the Scrum Master and the project manager and perhaps the business analyst and perhaps the product owner, you know, meet with the engineering team and go through the backlog of all the tasks and decide what is it that we're going to be working on. As you know, a lot of the stories and tasks that are listed there, a lot of them will be very high level with very minimal detail, and some of them will be with lots of detail. So there'll be a lot of different tasks at different levels of detail. And not until we decide that, yes, we're going to focus on these particular set of features, then we would go in and hash them out and decide and find out what the details are about a particular story. So we're going to be this is also going to be the first assignment that you're going to be working as a team, right? And so there are going to be different things, different tasks that are going to be implemented at different levels, right? As an organization, right? As a team, and then individually. And so as an organization, for instance, you're all going to have to agree that there'll be one single GitHub repository, right? That the entire organization is going to be sharing amongst everyone. Yes. As a team, you're going to have to decide that you're going to be working on a particular set of features as opposed to some other team, right? So each one is going to be focusing on several use cases, right? And at first, these use cases will be very independent from one another. But as time progresses, then we will identify several dependencies between the two or three teams. At first, the tasks that we're going to give you are going to be fairly independent of each other. Okay, but starting in the fourth or fifth assignment, we'll start identifying that, hey, wait a minute, I can't keep working until, you know, team number 2 completes their part. Right? At first, it'll be very, very, very vertical. So at the individual level, we're going to ask you to you know, work on a particular set of files or a particular set of implementation tasks that you'll be graded individual for that particular task. So there'll be some tasks that you have to complete together, right? As an organization, all 9 of you, right? So for instance, one of the things you have to do is that each one of you might have come up with a separate SRS, right? A requirements document, right? So you need to compile that into a single SRS for the organization. So that will be one of the things you have to meet together and decide to do that particular work. Yes? Also, there might be some inconsistency and conflicting understanding of what particular use cases was described. You're gonna need to resolve those conflicts, right? And come up with a single definition of some of the terms, some of the functional requirements, so you'll have to merge those 9 SRS into a single one. Yes? Plus, the TAs might have given you some feedback. We might have explained a couple of things here in class. You might have come to my office hours. You might have a better understanding, right? And you will take all those new understanding and come up with a new SRS for the entire organization. Yes? Right? Also, right, you'll have to have a common GitHub. You'll need to have a common JIRA dashboard for the organization. You'll have to have a common Scrum board for the entire organization, so you could see from a very high level point of view, you know, what is everybody working on, right? So I can see or the burn rate of the entire organization of how we're doing in respect to what we said we were going to do, respect to what we have actually achieved. So there'll be several organization level tasks. So let's go through a couple of these. So there's this document is divided into 3 parts, right? The organization level tasks, right? which it'll be 20% of the grade of this assignment. There'll be a teams level task, which will be a 30% grade of the entire assignment, and then the individual task, which will be 50% of the grade for the whole assignment. But each one has 100 points, right? So for the organizational level, you'll be asked to first merge all your system requirements, all 9 system requirements, into just one, right? Just one system SRS document, right? Just look at each other's, right, and see where you hopefully most of you will agree, right, on many of these use cases and functional requirements and whatnot, and just merge them into one single one, right? Perhaps break it up and says, okay, why don't you work on the use cases? I'll work on the functional requirements, and you work on the acronyms and whatnot, and have one single document. So that's the first part. The second one is assumptions. So there might have been several questions back and forth on being able to that there were some questions at the beginning, right, on what assumptions you might have made. By now, perhaps some of those questions might have been answered, right? That some misunderstandings you might have had before have been cleared up, or maybe not yet, right? But here's where a chance for asking each other says, oh, is that how you thought of that? It says, well, no, I had understood this, that, and the other. So make sure that the assumptions all agree amongst all of you. Then on JIRA, we're still working on everybody's JIRA accounts, but I think several. Who was able to log into JIRA? Who was not able to log into JIRA? Okay, that's good. All right, so we'll deal with the edge cases, but that's great. That's great that most of you were able to log in. You'll need to create an organization level dashboard, right, where we'll see real quick what are all the issues that everybody's working on. We'll see the burn rates of what tasks are currently planned for this particular sprint, right, and see how as a organization how we're doing. Okay. Each one of these artifacts that you're going to be building in JIRA, right, they're all shareable, right, and so we're going to be asking you as we go to copy the URL, right, of what that dashboard you just created and provide that as a link as a deliverable, okay, and the deliverable will be listed at the bottom. Then we're going to ask you to do a organization level Scrum board. A Scrum board allows you to see what are how each one of the tasks is at whatever status it is. Is it something that we haven't started yet in the to-do list? Is it something that is in progress, or is it something that is done and has been delivered? Right. So the Scrum board allows us to see all the statuses of all the different tasks. So you'll create a Scrum board for the organization, right, using JIRA. Then in previous assignments, you might have created a Spring Boot application. All of you have done this and have been playing around with it for the last couple of weeks. We'll need one of these for the entire organization. Yes? We're going to have one single Java middle tier, right, that we're all going to be sharing. Okay? So you'll need to create one of these middle tiers and deploy it on Heroku. And we're suggesting to give it a name such as CS 4500, Spring 19, and then the name of the organization. Some of you have chosen organization names that are very long. If you can maybe come up with an acronym or something shorter. I don't know that Heroku will let you choose such a long organization name. All right, so choose something smaller so that it'll fit in Heroku. Right, so one project, one repository, one GitHub repository. If we can't get over the hump of that we can't have more than 3 folks per repository, we're going to have to bite the bullet and use the CCIS accounts where we can invite more than 3. So probably that's what we're going to have to do, unless you have a professional account on GitHub.com. We're going to have to use the CCIS. Yes.
We all get that through our education packs.
In GitHub, GitHub.com. Yeah, that's what I thought. But I see a lot of folks who have the educational pack only have 3 for some reason. I'm not quite sure. Yeah, if you could verify that and help us out on that, and just share that on Piazza? Excellent, thank you. Yeah, so if we can, I would prefer github.com, but if not, then we'll just have to use those CCIS GitHub accounts, right? Because we need 9 folks per repository, right, to share in the same repository. Yes? So one source repository will push everything onto the repository, make sure it's there. Everyone will have to clone down, right? That's a repository to have a local copy of that repository, right? Then, as part of this this assignment, we're going to ask you to add to that repository a database, a relational database to that Heroku instance. And we have a couple of slides here that walk you through how to add a relational database to a Heroku project. Okay, and we'll go over that in detail, and we'll demonstrate how to do that. We're asking you to give it a name to that database schema, and you'll also need to configure in your Spring Boot application. You'll need to configure a couple of things, right? So to the POM file, for instance, you'll need to add MySQL as a dependency, right? And you'll need to add a couple other dependencies to the POM file. You'll also need to configure a couple properties in the application to set up the username, the password, the URL of where the database lives, right? Those kind of properties we'll need to configure. So we'll go over this in detail as we go. Right. So that's the organization level tasks. Yes. And again, on this you should all be able to work on together. Maybe assign to someone to, out of the 9 folks, right? You might have maybe some of the folks working on the database, some of the folks setting up the GitHub repository, some of the folks setting up the Spring Boot application. Any which way you want to divvy it out as an organization, right? Work it out amongst yourself as a team of 9. Decide who's going to work on what piece, right? And plan out the week on that. Okay. Right, maybe someone can work on the dashboard, someone can work on the Scrum board, someone can work on the Spring Boot and whatnot. Yes, okay. So you'll be graded as an organization, right? For these tasks. Then there's the team level tasks, and that will be 30% of the grade, and again 100 points. So first, you'll just like there was an organization level dashboard, there will be a team dashboard, right? And that dashboard will list what are the tasks that everybody's working on. How many new tickets were created as opposed to how many tickets were closed that particular sprint. It should give the TAs and myself a quick overview on how your performance was this last week or so. Yes. Right, and so there are several widgets that you can add to these dashboards that give us a statistical analysis on how you've been doing, right? So we're asking you to create a dashboard and then submit the link of the dashboard as a deliverable for this assignment. Then throughout the rest of the semester, we're going to be running Scrum meetings every week. We're going to having a 1-week Scrum meetings. Typically, I would prefer 2-week Scrum meetings, but semesters are short, and so we're choosing something smaller than that. All right, 2 weeks we'd be done. We only have like 5 or 6 sprints, and we'd be done. Right, so just to make it a little more chaotic, perhaps, to feel what it means to work in teams, we're going to make them a little shorter. So it'll be 1-week sprints. Every week you're going to choose out of your team. You're going to choose a Scrum Master. Okay, it can be anyone in the team. So these are teams of 3. So you'll rotate who's the Scrum Master that week, right? And the responsibility of the Scrum Master is to make sure that communication is flowing. Right, that's their most important task, is to make sure that communication is flowing. All right, that everybody knows what's the status. If somebody is blocked, you might ask someone else, hey, this person is blocked, can you just help them out, right? And collaborate. Also, if there are any questions or doubts on a particular use case or feature or functionality, and the team has questions, the Scrum Master's responsibility is to gather all those questions, right, and come back to the TAs or myself and then ask those questions and then report back to the team. Right. So Scrum Master's responsibility is communication. Right. Also, the responsibility is that every day, for about 15 minutes, the Scrum Master will run a Scrum meeting, right? Where we're asking you that at least twice a week, right? Maybe Tuesdays and Fridays, perhaps, you meet face to face, right? Maybe right before class or right after class. It's up to you. But at least twice a week, meet face to face for 15 minutes. I don't think that's too much to ask. The other days, we're asking you to meet. You can meet remotely, either by Hangout or Slack or whatever you choose to use as a tool for remote collaboration. And again, for 15 minutes, everybody report a couple of things. Everybody will have to report what have they achieved so far, right? If they are blocked, okay, and what is it they're planning to do next, right? Those three things, okay. A Scrum meeting won't try to solve any particular issues, right? So it should not become something long on saying, well, no, but my connection didn't work, and then I wasn't able to deploy, and there was some bug. No details, right? The Scrum meeting should be status information, only status. What did you do, right? If you're blocked and somebody can help you out, right? And what are you going to work next? Right? If there's some issue that needs to be discussed in detail, in the Scrum meeting, you should come up or agree to a follow-up meeting and say, okay, we'll deal with that later this afternoon at 3, and then we'll meet about resolving that particular issue. Make sense? Right? If somebody's blocked, perhaps some other in the team member says, oh, I can help you with that, and then decide to meet at a later time to resolve that. Yes? Right? So the Scrum Master will be responsible for keeping the conversation going. If the Scrum Master sees folks going into details, they're going to say, take that offline, deal with that later. We just keep going with the status. Right? Oftentimes, these status meetings are often referred to as stand-up meetings, where you come for 15 minutes, nobody sits down, nobody gets comfortable, right? So that we want to get in and get out as quickly as possible. Everybody hates meetings. Right, so that we don't want them to just keep on going on and on and on, right? So just real quick, in and out, okay? Scrum meetings. Also the different teams. Remember, there's going to be 3 teams in each organization, yes? And so we're going to focus each one of the teams to work on different features, right? On different features of the same product. The organization is working together for one single product. In this case, our services market, right? And looking over the different functionality, we have identified 3 things that need to be created, right? 3 things that need to be created. One of them is being able to manage users. I need to be able to create users, look at their accounts, maybe update them. What administrative tool might need to manipulate or to create, read, update, and delete users. Yes? Right, we'll need one of those. Right, so we're going to focus that and assign that to team number 1. Okay? Team number 2, we identify that we also need to manage services. Yes, we have to create a pet service, a music lesson service. We need to create all sorts of lessons, all sorts of services. Yes, wedding services, photography services, all sorts of services. So we need a tool for being able to manage these services. Okay, so team number 2 is going to focus on creating some mechanism for being able to manipulate all these services. Yes, okay. Then team number 3, we also need a mechanism to be able to categorize or group together all these different services into various categories, right? So we'll have, for instance, we'll create categories such as like a house category, and under house we'll have house cleaning, house painting. We have everything that has to do with house, lawn and garden, right? Plumbing, electricity, all those services will be under the house category. Yes? And under the wedding category, you might have photography or makeup, and you might have all sorts of catering and all the different services that might go under wedding. Yes? So we need a tool for managing all these categories. Make sense? All right? All these tools will be almost identical to one another intentionally. So that presumably each team will, a level of complexity, whatever they're going to be working this week, will be more on the par, right? That each team is going to be working on something similar, right? But it just at some different data model, right? You'll be working on users, you'll be working on categories, you'll be working on services, but the complexity is the same. Everybody okay? Also, if it's designed, these tasks were intentionally designed to be independent of each other for now. As we go further, obviously these will have to somehow merge somewhere in the middle. Okay, somehow we'll need to make a relationships between users and services, as in I'm a service provider, I am a user, and I offer these services. Somewhere we need to make that bridge of users providing these services somewhere. Yes, so there's a relationship there, and we'll do that later. Same thing with categories and services. Somewhere we're going to have to say that these services are under this category. Yes? So there's a relationship between those two. We'll deal with that a little later. For now, these will be independent of each other. Okay? All right, so each team should be able to work independent of the other teams. We'll deal with the complexity of merging and dependencies a little later. All right? Right, so each team is going to be working on these three. We have provided a design document here. This design document that we'll discuss captures the result of the latest designs that the design team and the business owner, the product owner, and have come up with. Right, they've been brainstorming. They've been coming up with lots of ideas. Right, and they've come up with this design document over here. And based on this design document, you will be working on each one of these three features. Let's look at that document that we are providing. So this document captures a couple of things. One of the things that it captures is a first approach of how navigation would work, right? And some of the screens that we're gonna need as users interact with the application, right? So for instance, there will be the need of some kind of profile screen where users can manipulate information about their personal information. Okay, they're going to need to be able to register with the system. They'll need to be able to log in, and as they log in or register, they can navigate between login and register. Once they log in or register, they can view their profile. From their profile, users, depending on what type of user you are, you'll have access to other things. Right? For instance, if you're an admin user, then you should be able to navigate to the admin screen, right? Only if you have the admin role. If not, then you don't have access to that. If you're a service provider or a service client, you'll have access to other things, right? Now, presumably, we would allow anyone to be either or both. I can be a service provider and I can be a service client. Right? I can be providing photography, but I need a plumber. Right, so I can be both, right, a provider and a client. As a provider of services, I should be able to find services that I can provide, right? And I should be able to manipulate the service and say, yes, I'll clean your house, but I won't clean houses that are above 2,000 square feet. I only do houses that are below that, right? Or I can do a pet sitting. But I can only do 2 pets, right? I'll only do cats. I'll only do dogs. So each one of the services should be able to be configured, yes? So that when folks search for me, right? They'll type in all their search criteria, and I won't show up if you're asked for a house cleaner that deals with 3,000 square feet, right? Or a pet sitting that deals with cats because I only do dogs. Make sense? So me as a service provider, I should be able to select the service and configure my parameters, right, on that service. Make sense? Also, if folks find me as a service, they might ask me for a quote, right? It says, okay, I found you. Can you come tomorrow? Right? I have a leak in my house, and then can you come up? And you ask for a quote, right? And it says, okay, well, I see that you need this kind of work, and you ask for a quote. I'll tell you, I'll do that for $1,500, and so the quotes screen will allow me to see the status of my quotes, right? Folks that have requested quotes from me, and me having submitted a quote, and whether that quote has been approved by my client. Yes? And if it has been approved, then we can sign up a contract and says, yep, I'll be there, and I'll bill you for $1,500 for my services. Make sense? All right. So this is managing the services and the quotes and contracts. If I'm a service provider, I also will need to answer questions, frequently asked questions for all service providers, such as, what was your favorite client? What's your favorite kind of job? How many employees do you have? Are you insured? So all sorts. Do you have a background check? Right, these are all questions that clients are going to have about all service providers. Yes, and they would like to know. They would like to know these kinds of questions from all service providers. So they'll answer and they'll fill out their frequently asked questions. Okay? If they're an admin, they can navigate to an admin screen, and from the admin screen they can do all sorts of things. Right? So administrator, for instance, should be able to manage the frequently asked questions. Right? Add a new question to the frequently asked question, or maybe tweak the question a little bit, or remove a question from there. So somebody's going to have to manage that. Right, so that's the frequently asked questions. Somebody's going to have to manage the list of services, right, and how they're organized by category. Yes? Right, so they should be able to navigate to the admin services and then manage the categories and also all the searches and how searches occur for those services. So this another admin use case is to administer users, right? Add a user, remove a user, change somebody's password, add them to a particular role, right? So in this particular assignment number 3, you're going to focus on these three use cases, right? Administering services, administering categories, and administering users. Yes, right? And as we progress throughout the semester, we'll see what we can do, with the rest of the stuff. Okay? All right. Everybody okay? All right. All right. Once I log in, I can navigate to the home page, or if I'm not logged in, I can also see the home page. But if I log in and I visit my home page, the home page should be specific to me. Right? It maybe remembers my last searches, or remembers my favorite service provider, my favorite pet sitter, or my favorite whatever, right? So my homepage should be somewhat responsive to me and show things that are specific to me. Yes. Now let's look at this is a description of all the different screens in there and what they are used for. And here's this is what a user admin page might look like, right? That you should be able to create new users, be able to search a user, add a user, update a user. You should be able to remove a user. Right? You should be able to select a user for editing. Right? So all the CRUD operations that are needed for managing users. The other ones, the categories, are going to be similar. Same thing. Right? There's going to be categories that can be added, can be searched, can be updated, can be removed, can be edited. Yes? Services as well. Right? We'd be able to add a service, remove a service, update a service, delete a service. It'll look very similar to that. From the home page, right? If you're from the login page, you can navigate to the home screen. From the home screen, what the users will see is lots of categories, lots of service categories, like wedding, right? House, right? The top level categories. and each category will have all sorts of services in that category, right? So we'll have wedding, so we'll have catering, we'll have photography, we'll have makeup, we'll have all the services under wedding. Yes, so that will be shown on the home page, right? And folks can either navigate to a particular category to see more details about that category, or they can just select one particular service and say, okay, well, I want that service. Once you've selected a service, the service, depending on your statistics, depending on your zip code, depending on past searches, it might offer you a list of providers, right, based on your past history, perhaps. Yes, and then you can either choose a provider, right, that's being suggested, or you can search for a new search for specific providers. Yes, it's a particular date, it's a particular search criteria, and then it'll come back with the providers that match that criteria. This is the list of providers that match the criteria. The search is different for the different type of service that you selected, right? If it's photography, you'll be asked different things than if you want a plumber, right? So different questions will be asked depending on what kind of service you're asking for. So this search screen is dependent on the particular service that you choose, or search type that you choose. Once you have a provider, you can select that provider, and you can see the provider's rating, you can see the provider's reviews, all the frequently asked questions that they answered, if people left any comments, any information about past jobs that the particular provider has done, and so they can look at the reviews. And once you have that provider and you like that provider, you can ask for a quote. You say, well, give me a quote. It says I need you next week for 2 days or whatever, right? And that quote will be listed in that provider's profile, right? The provider will see, oh, somebody asked me for a quote, all right? And so I'll give them a quote, and so that's how they will be able to interact through the quote and come up with an agreement in a contract. Make sense? Right. So all of these will be hashed out as we go. Again, we'll see how far we get. The intent is not to build everything. That's not the intent of the course. The intent of the course is to learn the software engineering skills, right, to tackle something like this, as we go forward. Well, we'll see how far we get. Right? But there's no particular, end game to this. This could go on and on forever. Right? Okay, so now, depending on based on some of these screens and the description from these screens, the business analysts have identified the following very general use cases. All right. For instance, all users should be able to create accounts. They should be able to log into the account, log out. They should be able to manage their personal account information. They should be able to remove themselves and say, I want to get out. I don't want to be part of this service anymore. If you're a service client, you should be able to search for a service provider. Right? You should be able to review that service's quote, ask for a quote, agree to a service, or contract a service provider. If you're a service provider, you should be able to answer the FAQs. You should be able to register for a service, be able to configure the service's parameters. I only do houses that are this big, or these types of pets and things like that. If you're an administrator, you should be able to manage users, manage FAQs, services, categories, manage the service search parameters and questions, quotes, and contracts. For this assignment, we're going to be dealing just with these use cases, these 3 use cases. We're just going to get started with these 3. All right. Now, for these 3, the business analyst has gone and provided an actual use case analysis for those 3 use cases. Right. One is admin manages user, administrator manages user. It just gives a short description. It gives a basic path. Admin user logs in as an admin. From their profile, admin user selects administration functionality. They navigate to the. Notice that this is displaying first what the user does, and what the system displays. So user, system, user, system, user, system. Yes? Interaction as they interact. Admin user selects user administration. A set of users are displayed. Admin user reviews set of users. Admin user searches for user to manage. A set of users that match the criteria are displayed, and so on and so forth. The second one is admin wants to manage services. So this administrator wants to add a service, remove a service, update a service. So they log in as an admin. From their profile, they choose the administration functionality. The services are displayed. The admin user reviews the set of services. Admin user selects a particular service they want to manage. And then some editable fields appear so that they can edit that particular service. The admin updates those fields and then confirms those changes, and the service is updated. And same thing with the service categories. So these are the 3 use cases that we're going to ask you to get started. Starting this week, this sprint. Okay? And you'll be asked to create stories for this, for each one of these stories, for each one of these use cases. Right? Notice that each one of these steps could be quite a few functional requirements. It says, oh, I need a screen for that. I need a Java data model for that, and I need a table for that, and I need this and that or the other, right? Each one of these is going to be multiple functional requirements. So here's some functional requirements for each one of the use cases. So for the user management, admin manages users' functional requirements. Here are some of the functional requirements. For instance, the system shall display a list of users formatted as a table called the user admin table. Right? Already we started to commit to some implementation details. It needs to be a table. Right? The user admin table shall have the following columns: username, first name, last name, and role. Right? So already we're deciding on some layout, some field names. Right? The user admin table shall have the last column, right, with action buttons, delete and edit. So the last column, right, will have a couple of action items. Yes? And so on and so forth. So there's some details on saying the first row will have some fields. Selecting the action button will retrieve the details for that user and update the row. Right? So this already is describing some behaviors on how it should behave. You see that? All right? Much more detail as opposed to use case. The use case was very vague. It selects, but it doesn't say how, or displays, but it doesn't say how. But this one is already making some commitments on how is it going to be. So same thing for the admin managing the services. Same thing for admins managing the categories. Make sense? Everybody good? All right. So this document will change over time, right? And we'll let you know of any of those changes. So let's go back to the planning. So having reviewed those use cases and those functional, it's asking you to do as a team. As a team, it asks you, depending on your particular use case, if you're team 1, it's these use cases. If you're team 2, it's these use cases. If you're team 3, it's these use cases. Make sense? Right? Depending on your team, to take those particular use cases from what we gave you and update your SRS. Right? Because the SRS is the final document that we're committing to. Yes? So update your SRS with what we're giving it to you. I mean, we're giving it to you already, right? You don't have to do much, right? Although we are asking you to come up with a couple of preconditions, postconditions, and some variations, right? So it's just not copy-paste, right? It's almost copy-paste, but just do a couple of things there. We've also deliberately left out a step or two in the basic paths, right? We're asking you to see if you can find, right, if there's a missing step here that doesn't make sense. So how is it you're displaying this if you haven't selected it, for instance, right? Some ordering might be off. So just look at the use case and see if it makes sense to you, right? See if you can identify some missing step in there, okay, and to add it. Also, please make sure that whatever changes you make to the SRS document, to always update the document history and versioning. Right? So this could be left to the Scrum Master or to one of the developers, right, to go in and say, okay, so and so updated this and that in the other part in the SRS document. and when was it due, who did it, and when was it the change had been made. Yes? The TAs will look at these dates and who made them, and make sure that it's there. For the functional requirements, same thing. Take the functional requirements that we gave you, all right, and just copy and paste them into your SRS document. All right. Again, there might be a functional. We're going to ask you to compare the functional requirements against each other, and see if you find something missing. Right. One might be missing a delete. The other one might be missing an update. Another one might be missing a create. Okay. So make sure you look over the functional requirements and see if there's something missing, right? And then add and fix the functional requirement, right? Hint, hint. All right, in JIRA, you create an epic, right? We'll see in a minute what that is. Basically, an epic is a collection of related stories that are trying to solve one big problem, right? Like for instance, user administration. And user administration can have multiple use cases and multiple user stories, yes? So an epic is just a group, a logical grouping of those. So we're asking you to create 3 epics. Each team will have a different epic. So epic team 1 will have the epic of user admin. Team 2 will have the service admin epic. And team 3 will have the service category admin epic. For the user stories that we gave you, we ask you to write at least 3 tasks. At least 3 tasks. One of them is a design task. Right? You say, well, somebody's going to have to spend a day, right, drawing up what this page is going to look like, right? So we have to track that work, right? And somebody's going to have to spend a day, maybe, of writing up what the Java class is going to look like, right? Or what the interaction between the client and the server, what that's going to look like. So so as a team, write up a couple of these stories. A design story, a research story. A research story is usually a time box task that is used for researching some unknown that might be risky. For instance, I don't know how to store some object in the database. I don't know how to do that. Right? So that's risky. So that might jeopardize our project. And I don't know how to use any of these technologies of using Java to talk to a database and whatnot. So let's create a research story for that. Yes? So that somebody goes out, right? Plays around with Java Persistence API layer for a day or so, right? Reads the documentation, comes back the next day and says, ooh, I know how it works. Right? I did a little tiny small prototype. I got it to work, right? And come back and report to the team saying, I know how to make it work. I'll explain to the rest of the team. Yes? So we're asking you to create a research story. And the last one is a user story. User story is an actual feature that, from the point of view of the user, what they like to be able to achieve, some particular goal using the system. Now, these user stories at the beginning, at the beginning of the project, these user stories will be very vague, right? Intentionally. Maybe only the title, and that's it. We know we need to create a screen for a user for being able to edit a user. So that's a story. No details. Okay? So this will be intentionally left vague and won't yet be made in details until we choose to implement that in a particular sprint. Yes? All right, so we're asking you to create these tasks. We're asking you to use JIRA to create a sprint this week, and next week you have to create a new sprint, and every week you'll create a brand new sprint. All right, this is the very first sprint, right, of several sprints that we're going to be running throughout the semester. Yes, this is the very first sprint. Typically, in a sprint, basically what it is a 1 week or 2 week time box that we are all going to agree to work on these 10 features or these 10 tasks during this 1 week period. All right, and during the week, every developer will be responsible for moving their task or their ticket, through several statuses, right? Whether it's in to do or it's in progress, it's done, it's in QA, it's deployed. So we'll create a sprint. We'll make sure that whenever you create each one of these stories, whenever you create each one of these tasks, we need to give them, we need to size them. So how long do you think it'll take you to design that? How long do you think it'll take you to research that? How long do you think it'll take you to build that? Right? At the beginning, whatever size we give these will be very inaccurate. Right? It'll make sense. It makes sense. Where at the beginning we don't know how, it's new technology. It's the very first time we're doing this. So at the beginning it'll be very, very inaccurate. And I don't know that we'll have enough time to actually become accurate. Right? Usually these projects go on for many, many months. Right? So the team gets a chance to know each other and work well together, right, throughout multiple months, and they get into a cadence, right? They get into a nice groove. Everybody knows what everybody's doing. I don't know that we're going to have enough time to reach that kind of stability, right, in such a short time. Maybe we will, but at the beginning, certainly is going to be very, very inaccurate, right? And so you might agree that, oh, that'll just take me a day, right, or 2 days to do that research, right? And at the beginning, we might be over optimistic or over pessimistic, yes, and that's okay. At the beginning, it'll be a transition, a very, very chaotic. As we go forward, the sizing of these stories should become more and more accurate, all right? And the way we size them, we will size them using points. Right? We'll say, oh, that's a 2-point story, or that's a 1-point story, or that's a 3-point story. And points are very subjective. A point might mean different things to different teams. Right? Usually a good rule of thumb is that a point is a day. Right? But in some other teams, it might mean a half a day. Yes? And it doesn't mean half a day as in 4 hours or 8 hours. It means that I am committing myself at having this done, starting on a day, and then next day I will be done. That's what you're committing to. Regardless of whether you actually work for 4 hours or 8 hours or 16 hours that day, you're committing yourself to having this done by the next day, right? So it's not really hours, right? It's subjective to whatever the team agrees what a point means. Yes? Right? But a good rule of thumb is to say, well, a point, it's a good start to say that a point is 1 day. So if you say that's a 1-point story, you're saying you'll be able to provide this about a day after. Make sense? So at the beginning of the sprint, typically in the planning phase, we load up the sprint with so many points, and say, okay, well, I know that I think I'll be able to work this week, this sprint, about 3 or 4 points per sprint. And so I'll choose maybe 3 stories, maybe one of them, 2 1-point stories, plus a 1 2-point story. Yes, right? And I'm full. I should not be added any more tasks this sprint, right? And ideally, all the team members will have more or less the same number of points to go through that particular sprint. Make sense, right? And at the end, if you add up all the points in the team for that week, you'll have, I don't know, if you just you might agree that no one should be loaded up more than 5 points per sprint, right? That's a good, I think that's a good number, but you should agree amongst yourselves, right? 3, 5 points, it's a good start. And that means that if it's three folks in a team, you won't be able to work more than 9 to 15 points per sprint. Yes? Now that point per sprint is a measure of what's called the velocity of the team. How fast is the team? Meaning, through how many points can the team burn through every sprint? Yes? And again, the accuracy of that velocity depends on the accuracy of the points. Yes? And at the beginning, most surely you'll be way off, right? You'll probably be way too optimistic, or you'll be way too pessimistic. Yes, but as you keep going, right, you'll start saying, oh, you know what, I really thought that was a 1-point story when I did this the first time around, but now that I've gone through it, I'm pretty sure that should have been a 2-point story. A 2-point story. Make sense? Right? And that should go forward to, as a institutional knowledge as part of the team, as you learn from this process. Yes, right? And as you go forward, you'll be able to compare one story against another in points. And if you say if one story is a 1-point story and another one's a 2-point story, somebody might call you out and says, really, that's twice as hard as that other story? And that it should be a collaborative process of everybody agreeing that this should be that many points. Make sense? Right? Also, depending on the level of experience in the team, right? Somebody in the team might say, oh, that's a 1-point story. And somebody might say, well, no, that's a 5-point story. And there'll be some bickering between the two. And you should challenge. The Scrum Master should challenge the two. Yes? They should challenge the smallest point, and they should challenge the highest point. They should challenge the one that says it's a 1-point story and says, why do you think it's that easy? And so they'll say why they think it's easy. And they'll challenge the person who's saying it's so hard. Yes? And so at some point there'll be some consensus, and they'll agree, somebody will agree, well, okay, the 5-point story, it's really a 3. And somebody might say, well, it's not really a 1, it's really a 3, right? So at some point they converge into something that they can all agree. Make sense? But it's a collaborative process. All right? Right. So that's done in the that's done in the sprint planning. So every week you'll have every day, right? At least twice a week, 2 face-to-face meetings, maybe right after class or right before class or something like that. Wherever you agree to meet. 15, no more than 30 minutes, right? Better if it's just 15 minutes. And if you can't meet in face-to-face, then use Hangout or Slack or some other remote meeting technology. Now, we need a mechanism, TAs and myself need a mechanism to grade these meetings. Right? We can't be part of all the meetings. There's no way for us to participate in everybody's team meeting. So we're asking you to keep meeting notes, right? Team meeting notes. It could be just a one-liner where you say, for each team member, what have they achieved, if they're blocked, and what they're working on next, right? For each team member. This can be done by the Scrum Master, or you can assign somebody to be a scribe, right, to keep track of the team meetings, or each person can, send as a quick message on Hangout or on Slack. This is what I worked on. This is if I'm blocked, right? And this is what I'm working next. And you can just copy this and paste it into the team notes. Yes? All right? And we're asking you to either share with the TAs and myself a Google document where you keep in the team meetings, right? For the most part, we're gonna be fairly lenient with these. We just want to make sure that everybody's doing some progress. It's okay from one day or two, just say, I didn't do anything today. I'm not going to do anything. I have other courses to work on. That's fine. Makes sense. Yes. You just don't. But at least have the meaning, and say, I'm not doing anything today. All right, and put that on the team meeting. I'm not doing anything. That's fine. I have AI to work for, or some other course that you're working on. Makes sense. During the Scrum meetings, the Scrum Master will share the Scrum board with the team and say, okay, well, and it'll go through each one of the team members and say, okay, you were working on this. What's the status on that? Right? And depending on whether they're done, they're going to move it to the done column, or they're going to move it to the in progress column, or whatever. Right? Now, before the team Scrum meeting, ideally, all the team members should update the statuses of their ticket, right? So that the meeting can go quickly. Right? If you have to stop and update the statuses of each ticket during the meeting, it'll just take forever. Ideally, the team members, right, before the meeting, they'll look at their tickets and they'll update it and say, okay, well, I'm done with this, right? Now I'm going to work on this. Okay, so this is in progress. Yes, right? So that's the responsibility of each one of the team members to update these things. All right. So that's the team level tasks. The individual level tasks is what you are going to do individually as a team player. So during the sprint planning meeting, right? During the sprint planning meeting, the team agreed that they were going to work on these use cases during this sprint, and they will assign it to different team members. So okay, you're going to work on this, you're going to work on that, and there's going to just assign it. Right? It doesn't mean that they're going to work on it on this sprint, but just assign it to somebody. Yes. And once it's assigned to a particular person, the person individually, they're going to hash out that story a little further, right, with some of the details from the design documents that we shared with you today. Yes? You're going to hash it out. You're going to have some questions from me, from the TAs, right, and you're going to fill out that story. Typically, those stories are going to read something like this. As a user admin, I want to create a new user. That's a story. Yes? As a system administrator, I want to remove a user. As a system administrator, I would like to update the profile information for a user. Yes? Right? So you'll write that as a description. Maybe write a summary in the title. In the done criteria, you'll be asked to say, what would if you give this out to an actual user or a QA engineer to test this, how would they verify that this is actually done? Right? Says, okay, well, they would to add a new user, they would log in as an admin, they would navigate to this user admin page, they would search for they would type in the user information in the form, they would click on the plus sign, they should see the new user in the list of users. Done. That's the done criteria. Yes? If the QA runs through that script, that's what they should be able to see. Make sense? Notice that this done criteria will be very similar, right? This would be very, very similar to the basic path, right, described in the use case. It will be very, very similar to that, right? Also the size. If you had to do this, if you had to work on that, how long do you think it would take you to do that? 1 minute, one day, 2 days? How long do you think it'll take you? So write your sizes of the story. Okay. And finally, we're going to introduce relational databases this week. Right. We're going to ask you to create a relational database for the project as a whole. That you're going to be doing that as a team. Right. You're going to add a MySQL database. And we'd like to get started on implementing a couple of things. Right. For instance, the team 1 is going to work on administering users. Well, okay, we'll need to do that. We'll need to create a user Java code. We'll need to create a repository that talks to a database, and we need to be able to expose that as a service, as a web service. The code already exists. We already gave you the code, so it's not a code issue. We don't want to have you trying to figure this out. Right? We'll give you the code. You just have to get it working. Right? We give you the source code to all this. Here's the user repository. Okay, so we'll give you all the source code. We're asking you to get it to work for you. So team member 1 of team 1 will work on the user Java. Team member 2 of team 1 will work on the user repository. And team member 3 will work on the user service. The user service, we already started playing around with the user service as part of the first assignment and second assignment. So this is just a finished version of that. This is a finished version of that. And so we'll start on one of these on Friday, right? We'll start looking at this code and actually get going with some of this, right? To see how it would work for you. Right? So we're asking you to each one, team 1, create the Java data model. The Java data model for the user Java will be a simple, username, password, first name, and last name, and role. That will map to some database table that looks like this. It'll be some table, user table, that has these fields in that table, right? The user service, which is pretty much the solution to last week's assignment, will be all the CRUD operations that allow you to retrieve all the users, find a user by ID, create a new user, modify an existing user, and deleting a user. Yes? Right, we're giving you all that. We're also giving you a Postman collection, a set of Postman collections that will allow you to test whether the use case works. I need the native app? Okay, I don't have it here. So we already gave you a collection that would allow you to test this locally, right? And for us to test it as a TA and myself to test whether this is working. Now, some of these are dependent on each other, meaning that team member 2 won't be able to start working on their user repository until the team member one finishes on their user Java, right? So there'll be some dependencies among the team members, right? They'll have to wait on each other, and every time anybody writes anything, they'll have to create a pull request for the rest of the team to review. So, for instance, every time you every team member will be working on their own feature branch. They make frequent commits. They push their branch to the organizational repository. They create a pull request. They assign it to somebody else in the team to review their code, right, and to merge it, and then everybody else will pull the content onto their repositories. Okay. All right. All right. Any questions? Right, so a lot of this is copy and paste from stuff that we're giving you. All right? Just need to make sure it goes in the right place, right, at the right time, and that it actually works and runs locally and on Heroku. Right? And we'll demo this in class. We'll do it from scratch. All right? Yes. So there'll be one database in Heroku for the entire organization, but then you'll host a local database for yourself to do local development. Yes. Any questions?